Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. This is the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. Tonight, I have a really fun guest, Boone Froggett from the band Otis. And if you don't know Otis, you need to know Otis. You need to get to know Boone. This is a fantastic band, and I'm excited to be able to talk with Boone tonight. And we will get into what he's got going on, what everything's new with Otis in just a couple minutes. But before we do that, I want to tell you about the Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast. We have shows like Distillers Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They talk with distillers from across the country and around the world about anything and everything distillation. If that wasn't enough, Alan also has a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. If you're a distiller, maybe you're a legal distiller, maybe you're a backyard distiller, you got a question about anything distillation, Alan wants to answer your questions. Just email him a question. He'll post a video response so everybody gets a chance to learn from what you're asking. Alan also has one other show because he has way too much time on his hands, a show called If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. Now, this is a departure from the whiskey world. It focuses on things of the paranormal, the supernatural, the spiritual. Really interesting show. Be sure to check that out. Every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. They have great guests, they have fun tastings, and it's always a good time to hang out with the people in the chat. And also, Whiskey in My Wedding Ring with David Levine. David is an excellent writer. He has a great blog that you can access on his website. He also has a podcast where he posts interviews that he has with distillers. He's a smart guy. He's a funny guy. I know you'll enjoy that. But you also, don't forget about us. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate that. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, we appreciate that as well. So, without any further ado, I want to welcome Boone to the show. Boone, welcome to Bourbon Turntable.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Been looking
Yeah,
forward to this one. This is going to be fun.
yeah, I think we'll have a good time. Well, I will anyway. I hope you do too. So, I want to let's just start with the new single that came out. I don't know what 5 or 6 weeks ago, called "There's a Break in the Road." So, uh, tell us a little bit about this song and how it came to be for you.
Man, this song was originally done by Betty Harris. She was kind of the queen of New Orleans soul. This would have been around 1969. Written by Alan Toussaint, which if you're into New Orleans music, everybody knows who that is. But we were down. The band was playing in Macon, Georgia, and we stopped at this little record store called Habershams Records.
Hmm.
And there's no rock and roll in there. There's no country. There's nothing but soul, blues, and gospel. Those are your three choices if you go into Habersham. So obviously we were in heaven because where we live here in Kentucky, it's really hard to find blues and soul records
Mm.
because we were really too close to Chicago to get the distribution for those type of records and had the wrong demographic. So uh, this stuff's really hard to find around here. So when we go down south, we're always hunting for those records. So this is kind of a place that we frequent every time that we go to Macon, Georgia. So there's set a pile of dollar albums, and one of them was a compilation of New Orleans soul music. I'm like, well, that has to be good. There's the Meters, there's Dr. John, there's
Oh
Alan
yeah,
Toussaint, and then there's Betty Harris, which I wasn't familiar with yet.
yeah.
So as time went on, I went to my need to listen pile of new records that I drug in off the road and put it on, and it blew me away because it was kind of like listening to myself play it because the instrumentation on it was so loose. I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't teach somebody how to play like that. You just
Hmm.
have to. Each person was feeling it their own way, but at the same time, it was really working as an arrangement. So. And then, where we were in a band, that song really resonated to me
Hmm.
because, and in life and music and whatever you're doing, sometimes you reach a point where you're like, all right, something's got to go a new direction here, something's got to change here. So all
Yeah.
of us were going through that, and the song really resonated with us, and I was like, this could be a cool cover song. So I brought it into the guys, and everybody was like, yeah, we can do this. So
Yeah.
uh, we spent a couple rehearsals getting the arrangement together, and then we went into the Rock House studio down in Franklin with producer engineer Kevin McKendry, who
Hmm.
also played electric piano on the track, and we got a live take out of it. I think we played it 3 times, and then we started developing that first take.
Yeah. It turned out great. It really is fantastic. And
Oh, thanks, man.
when I think of Otis, I think, okay, that Otis, that's the Kentucky groove. You know,
There you go.
it's that Kentucky groove, man, and it just goes. And we'll talk a little bit about Eyes of the Sun, which was your last album, in a few minutes. But
Right.
that's definitely present there, and it's back with the new single, and it just hits. It really does. So congratulations on that. Really good performance track video to this as well. So if you haven't listened to the song yet, be sure to hit it up. But if you have listened to the song, check out the video on YouTube as well. It's really well done. I enjoy it a lot.
Well, thanks,
Um,
man. We we
yep.
had we, we had fun doing that. We did that in an old barn across the road over here, and man, we had a great time doing it too, man. But performance videos are where we thrive. It's cool to see the band in that element, and
Yeah.
sometimes when you do the story kind of videos, you're like, man, what am I even doing here? This this isn't very rock and roll of me to do this kind of thing, but the performance videos are really fun.
Yeah. Well, again, really well done, really well done. Hey, let's drink a little whiskey together. What do you think?
Let's do it, man.
All right. So the kind of the theme is Kentucky hidden gems, because Otis is a gem of Kentucky that you guys need to know about. So I've picked a couple of whiskeys that I think are a little flying under the radar, so to speak. The first we're going to try is this from Dueling Grounds. It's their bottled in bond bourbon. It's called Lincoln Pinch Bourbon, and just the little story behind that. Dueling Grounds Distillery is in Franklin, Kentucky, in Simpson County, and it's built on the site of, in the 1820s, that a site that was used for duels. So you had a beef with somebody, you'd go there, and the name of the farm was Lincoln Pinch Farm, and so you'd go there and you'd have your duel, and so that's how the distillery got its name. But uh, Boone, you got your whiskey?
I do.
Hey, cheers! Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
What do you think?
That's good stuff, man. It's got the right amount of bite.
Yeah,
I like that.
are you a whiskey guy at all?
I am. If I'm going to drink, that's usually my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy this one a lot. There's kind of a spice cake note on the nose, and lots of apples and corn when you on the taste of it. Again, if you can find it in your area, get it. It's good stuff, and support these smaller distilleries.
A great backstory as well.
Yeah,
That was pretty captivating there.
yeah. Yes, it is an interesting place. So, and down in South Central Kentucky, not too far from you, right?
Yeah, I'm in Glasgow, so
Yeah. It, you kind of probably have to take a back road highway uh, between the two, but they're down in the same neck of the woods, so to speak.
well,
Uh,
cool.
so you're in Glasgow, you said.
Yep.
Are you born and bred in Glasgow, or?
Well, I was originally born. Well, I was born here in Glasgow, but my folks are from Metcalfe County, over in Edmonton, Kentucky. Where
Okay.
the world famous Kentucky Headhunters form. So
Yeah.
that's what our area is known for. So got it honest. Growing up as a kid, seeing that tour bus leave Houchins, it's kind of like, man, hey, I could maybe I can do this. I don't have to move to L.A. or New York or even Nashville. I can do it from right here at home. So
Well,
that's kind of the model we followed.
yeah, I like it. And you've got a connection to the Headhunters, right?
I do, absolutely, man. They're all like family to me. Currently, I do their social media, and when Otis isn't touring, I'll go out on the road and hang out with them and help them out with whatever.
Yeah.
And of course, Greg Martin produced our first album, Tough Times, a tribute to John Brim,
Yeah.
and has always been involved in our upbringing. Introducing us to folks like Billy Gibbons and
Yeah.
Jimmy Hall and people like that. So
Yeah.
so Greg's the best, man. He's been a great teacher of music,
Yeah.
and that first album was all kind of his idea. We'd never heard of John Brim before
Mm.
until Greg brought it to our attention. We're like, man, this stuff is great. This is just as good as Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf
Mhm.
or any of those other guys that were on Chess. So we really took it to heart that he was from Kentucky and left us with a great heritage of the blues here.
Yeah. Yeah. From Hopkinsville, I think.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, and then moved on to Chicago when he was a teenager and recorded on Chess.
Yeah. And again, that 2014, I think,
Yeah,
when that
yeah,
came out. Yeah. Really great stuff. And if you're unfamiliar with John Brim, check that out. It's a good place to jump in, and uh, you can jump in there and listen to Otis's tribute, and then you can go back and listen to some of his original recordings on Chess, and uh, that's a great way to learn more about that era of music.
for sure, man.
It's a
Absolutely.
wonderful tribute to it. Um,
Thank you.
do you remember the first album that you ever bought?
Man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. There was albums around I remember listening to a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't have to buy much because my dad he's a guitar player, musician, so there was stuff already there. So once I got into his collection, I got turned on to BB King and the Fabulous Thunderbirds and things
Okay.
like that really moved me. And I do remember buying Government Mules High and Mighty at the at the Walmart here in Glasgow. I'm
There
not
you go.
I'm not I'm not sure how Government Mule got into Walmart here, but I reap the benefits.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. You remember your first concert?
Uh, Probably seeing my grandfather David Froggett Sr. fiddle was probably the first live thing I seen. That was kind of that's kind of what the family
Yeah.
did every weekend. Him and my dad was in this kind of a Bakersfield honky tonk type band, and then he did the old time fiddling competitions. So I remember
Yeah.
going over to Rough River to hear him compete in those, and he won the state championship a couple times.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So we just did a couple of shows with a distiller out in California where we were talking
Uh-huh.
about the Bakersfield sound. And so
Oh
it's
yeah.
funny you would have mentioned that. So music it's not just something that you casually happen to pick up. Music is a part of your family.
Oh, it's definitely in the blood. My grandfather owned a jamboree type music venue here in Center Kentucky for years, and it's
Yeah.
it's interesting. The first time I met Sam Bush, he made the connection to who I was. He's like, I knew your grandfather. I used to go over there
Oh, wow.
and play for him some. And before the Headhunters were the Headhunters, they were Itchy Brother, and they played there some as well. So it's cool to have the family connection to some of these musicians that I really look up to.
No, that's great. I, j- what, other than an Otis concert, what was the last concert that you attended? What was the last live show you were at?
Um, yes, it was really cool. They did the classic Tales of Yes tour, which was perfect because that's the era of Yes I'm really into, and
Oh
to
wow.
see Steve Howe get up there and rip through that stuff was really amazing.
Yeah. Okay. That's. I mean, yeah. Yes is fantastic. I mean, but that's more prog rock kind of thing, and so that wouldn't be what I would necessarily associate with the sound that you have in your band. But how does something like that and a love for that kind of music influence what you do and how you play?
It was I just love the progressive side of it, the storytelling of it. The Allman Brothers, they never really liked the Southern rock staple that everyone gave them. In,
Hmm.
in their eyes, they were just progressive rock. So we kind of take that same thing. We love being in the blues rock category. We love being in the Southern rock category. But really, all we're trying to do is be a progressive blues rock band. And then
Yeah.
if people want to call it something else, they can. But
Right.
but that's kind of where we're coming from. And
Yeah.
of course the we love the jam element of Yes.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
they can
Okay.
they,
There you go.
they can take something and just completely go the other direction with it and bring it back, and it's just magic what they do. It really is.
Yeah. A- And that kind of feeds into uh, Eyes of the Sun because there's
Hmm.
definitely a jam element within a lot of the songs on that album. Um, it's a big guitar album,
Oh, for sure.
um, and and so I want to just talk through a few of the songs with you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The opening track is Change, and it's starts with this gorgeous slide guitar. Now, are you the guy that's playing the slide? Is that your main contribution there?
Yeah,
Are
that's
you
that's me.
you're the Dwayne Allman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I,
Uh,
I don't know about that, but I'm definitely influenced by Dwayne Allman. Oh yeah.
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 Uh, but it starts with this gorgeous slide guitar. It's a very uplifting song in terms of its style and its sound and uh, just the overall feel of that song. Um, what were some of the things that you were drawing on, or what was in your mind when you're writing that?
Oh, definitely. Delaney and Bonnie, those first couple of albums.
Yeah,
Derek and the Dominoes, the Layla record, and then of course the Allman Brothers band. Is
yeah,
that influence is definitely present in
yeah,
that song, and it's just we don't like to shove it down people's throat, but we try to put out a positive message and tell a good story, and I think
yeah,
think we did that with that song, and it's still every night that we play it, you can feel the mood of the room, lift when
yeah,
we kick into it, man. It's a really fun song to play.
yeah. There's almost a Derek Trucks sound to that slide guitar in terms of the tone of it. And again, when I'm making comparisons, it's just pulling from different things to give people an idea of uh, who I interpret or I see you guys being and the sound that you have. It's not uh, to diminish or just you know make comparisons for the sake of it. So I hope that any
Yeah.
any comparisons are taken in the spirit that they're given. Um, and so the second,
Man, we're
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, obviously we're very influenced by that, the Allman Brothers family of players. There's been so many guys
Right.
in that band over the years, but Derek Trucks obviously a very big inspiration. And a part of where that sound coming from is it's a open tune guitar, which is the way Derek plays his. The only difference is I'm tuned to open D, as where Derek would be tuned to open E. So I'm just a key lower than he is, but it definitely influenced by the same stuff.
Yep.
A lot of people don't realize that a lot of what Derek does comes from a lot of Middle Eastern influences
Hmm.
from sitar music, and B, a form of gospel music that they call sacred steel, uh, which is just amazing. If you've never heard it, it's just a total different take on steel guitar, and the way those guys make the guitar sing is
Yeah.
just amazing. So shared influences and shared techniques. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get it.
One comment on Derek trucks. I've seen Tedeschi trucks several times, and
Yeah,
the one thing that I'm just confounded by. Well, there's lots of things I'm confounded by when I watch and listen to Derek play. But one thing that just I'm a little puzzled by. I never see him. I've been to several shows where he doesn't change guitars and he doesn't tune. He just and you go to a lot of shows and it's they play a song and then you got to wait, a minute and a half while they tune to the next song, and
yeah.
I don't see that with him. I don't know how he does that.
He's amazing, man. He knows his instrument very well, and it's set up to cater to that as well. And then with a slide players have such good, if they're good slide players, they have good intonation. They can
Mhm.
they can hear when they're out of tune and when they're not, and you can kind of correct yourself a little bit
Yeah,
on slide, to where if you're making a chord or doing something like a fingerstyle guitar player would do, it's not quite as forgiving.
yeah. Um, Second song on that album is "Blind Hog,"
Yeah.
and that is, and not to just throw the Southern Rock moniker on it, but that's a Southern Rock classic
Oh,
song.
well, thanks, man.
I mean, I could see Ronnie Van Zant wishing that he was singing it. It, it really it's there are three elements to a true Southern rock song to me. It's is there slide guitar, is there a whistle somewhere in it, and do you sing Southern? And
Hey,
it being hog and not hog, it's definitely Southern, and this fits
we
all the it's checks all the boxes.
yeah, we hit all the qualifications on that one. Nice.
um, and, but it's a great tune, and I got to imagine that is one of the highlights of a live show, isn't it?
Yeah, that's usually what we close out with every night. We'll do Blind Hog, and then we'll come back and do uh, Elmore James's "Shake Your Money Makers" and encore. But yeah,
Awesome.
that's usually the end of the show. It's the one everybody waits for. I think it has probably the most song recognition out of anything during our live set.
Yeah. Uh, and, and then the title track is "Eyes of the Sun," and again, a great song. But the thing that stands out to me about that is in the guitar solos in the middle of that song. It's almost in three movements. But there's
Yeah,
uh, you know, uh, there's just traditional fretwork, slide guitar, and then more. It just kind of goes from one to the other, right in a row, and it's just fantastic. Talk a little bit about
thanks, man.
how those guitar solos were put together, and the jam band element of that.
Well, kind of our thinking when we write things like this is we don't like to play the same thing every night. We like to
Mhm.
play the song up to a point, and then there's a space where you can a cliff you can go off of and improvise a little bit. So we started kind of building those guitar parts with that in mind, and then there's that middle part where we really wanted to try to do the George Harrison slide thing, where it's a bunch of parts layered together, and then it kind of builds into a solo. So
Yeah.
we we, we got we got to do that in that part of the song, and it was we really had a lot of fun with that album. We were using big amps, we were using small amps, yeah, guitars everywhere. we were really having a great time sonically recording that album, and that's another one that translates well live because it can go in a number of directions.
Yeah,
You could see us twice in a row, but you might not get the same experience with each song on any given night.
yeah, and I love that. I think that's the because you've got the song and somebody that's there and has heard the album, they'll recognize the song and they'll hear you singing it and they can sing along, and then you can take it a completely different direction, however you're feeling it that night,
Yeah.
and it's still the song, but it can be a very different experience for somebody listening to it and the guy's playing it, right?
Oh, exactly. We do it as much for ourselves as we do for the audience. But if somebody's coming to see us, 2 nights in a row, they don't want to see the same show that they saw last night, and we don't want to play the same show we played last
Yeah,
night. So it all works out. We like to throw some curveballs in the set and build some different things that we can improvise on.
yeah. Another song I wanted to talk about off that album, "Shake You."
That's a fun one.
That it's kind of has a Black Crowes feel, and then
Cool.
right in the middle, there's this jazzy Santana uh, bit, and then it kicks back into "Shake You," and when that uh, initial riff kicks back in, it's just amazing. I love that. Uh, uh, I guess anticipation that there is when that riff comes back.
Oh yeah, that's another one that's really fun to experience live, and we work hard to build dynamic moments in our songs. If you listen to a lot of modern rock today, you'll kind of see that it kind of stays the same through the song. It
Hmm.
doesn't change much in volume. It doesn't change much in tempo, and it's just like there's so many stories you can tell within a song that we and
Yeah,
that's what all our heroes did. You go back and you listen to Santana, you listen to Allman Brothers, Vanilla Fudge, whoever it may be, all those guys. They all knew how to jam. Even the pop bands of the late '60s, early '70s were great players that knew how to jam and could write a song.
yeah.
And that's something that we wanted to pay tribute to. And I got to mention that our buddy Eddie Stone from Macon, Georgia, came up to play B3 on that song
Oh
in
wow.
particular, and a couple of other songs on the album. And he was in the band Doc Holliday, if you remember them,
Yeah.
a big time Southern rock band in the early '80s. And then he also plays with the current incarnation of Wet Willie. So
Okay.
it was really cool to get to work with Eddie on that record as well.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And that's part of what gives it that Black Crows feel is the keys on it.
Yeah,
Um,
and I love his solo on it because you
yeah.
would think the obvious thing to do is just this blaring solo, but he held the band back and just did this just great melodic solo. We loved it. It was the last thing we would expected, and
Yeah.
it makes the song because it holds everything back to that big moment that we were talking about. When
Yeah.
the main riff comes back in.
Yeah. You talk about the dynamics, and "Shake You" is certainly an example of that effect there, and a song not just being, well, we're going to start it and then we'll do a verse and a chorus and a verse and a chorus and we'll have a guitar solo, and then we'll do a chorus, 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 and then we'll fade out and it's just kind of flat lines.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this song in particular, but really this whole album, it's a treat. um uh, uh, "Wash My Hands" and "Lovin' Man" kind of has that ZZ Top feel, and I know that you guys have a connection with Billy Gibbons. So tell us about that.
We do. Man, I had a chance meeting with Billy Gibbons. Greg Martin of the Kentucky Headhunters and I were down in Nashville, and we were there for the Guitar Tech of Government Mule of years had passed away, and we were down there for the visitation. So we were headed back home, and Greg gets a call from Billy Gibbons. He's like, hey, I'm in Nashville. If you guys are around, let's get together. So it didn't take us long for Greg to turn his van back around and head back to Nashville. It was like, hey, let's hang out with Billy for the evening. So we got together with him and his wife Gilligan toward the end of the night. Greg just kind of casually slid over the Tough Times tribute to John Brim record to him.
Mm.
He was like, hey man, listen to this sometime. He didn't even mention that I was had anything to do with it. He just
Yeah.
kind of slid it over to say, hey man, check it out. So Greg gets a call the next day of Billy just raving over the album, like how'd you get these guitar tones? How'd you do this? How'd you do that? I love the John Brim songs and all that stuff. So that kind of got a little relationship going with us and Billy, and he gave us a really nice press quote to use, and
Yeah.
still mentions us in an interview once in a while. And his solo band at the time, Billy and the BFGs,
Yeah.
would would walk out to I'm trying to think of which track it was. Leave Me Alone
Oh,
from the first
really?
record. So that's
Very
I mean
cool.
that's pretty cool. That's as
That's
cool as it
very
gets
cool.
when
Yeah.
when Billy Gibbons walks out on stage to your song. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think he could walk out on stage to about anything he wanted to. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
that's quite a compliment. And one more I want to talk about off this is a Relief in C and instrumental tune. Uh, and it has an Allman Brothers and even a Led Zeppelin feel to it as well. And again, is kind of a different point in the album. Uh, why choose to do something like that, and how did all that come together for you?
Man, we really wanted to pay tribute to our bluegrass heritage within our own genre. So the
Yeah,
obvious way to do that was through kind of a jam type thing. And obviously, we're very inspired by Led Zeppelin 3, which I thought was a great album that really showed the dynamic range of the band. We all know what Led Zeppelin was capable of within the first two albums,
yeah,
and then they showed us that even more in the third. So we really wanted to capture that in a song, and then kind of do a our take is growing up in the South and hearing that and how we interpret it. So and also we wanted to make that whole album an experience. We wanted to make it a dynamic album because that's the way all the great late '60s, early '70s albums that we all listened to were. It was a journey. People really sat down and they thought about uh, the flow of the songs. Is where today we're really in a singles market today. There's a
right,
lot of bands that can't afford to do albums, so they're definitely not sitting down and thinking about people consuming this as a whole. They're thinking about each song.
right,
So we wanted to take a more traditional rock and roll old school approach to the album, and I think it showed. I think
yeah,
people enjoy listening to it as an album as opposed to just having a song or two of it here and there.
yeah. No, I it's definitely something that you can sit down, you can start, and you can go all the way through it, and it'll keep your attention, it'll entertain you, it'll challenge you, uh, it'll inspire you. And it's good to drink whiskey too. I can attest to that.
Well, that's
I've
that's
done it a
that's
few
good.
times.
Right on, man.
So speaking of whiskey, let's go to our second pour of the evening, and again, Kentucky Hidden Gem, Glens Creek Distillery, just outside of Frankfort, is in on the property of the old Jim Crow Distillery,
Hmm.
and the name of this is Cuervito Vivo, and this is supposed to be this is their tribute to the old crow, the old crow, not the new old crow. The new old crow isn't anything like the old crow. So this is their tribute to old crow, and Cuervito Vivo means live little crow. And by the way, they have been issued a cease and desist order by Jose Cuervo. So because Jose Cuervo doesn't have enough money. Uh, but let's take a little pour of this one. This is going to be a good bit different, I believe. Cheers, Boone. What do you think, Boone? Well, first of all, I'm going to put you up bigger on the screen. Show everybody the glass that you're drinking out of.
This is a rarity right here. This is the Johnny Johnson and Kentucky Headhunters Stumbling shot glass. Richard found a box of these in storage last year, and gave me a couple of them. So perks of being a sometimes headhunter.
That is great. That is great. So, what do you think of this Cuervito Vivo?
I really like it.
Yeah,
It's like you said, it's really different, from
yeah.
from the first one.
There's a lot. I mean, it's a younger whiskey. It's probably aged, I don't know, 24 months. Say on here. It doesn't say on here, but it's about 2 years old. And the corn of it really comes through. A lot of the sweet corn on it, and it really, for being a modern whiskey, it kind of has the taste of what we would call a dusty. So if you go back and you find an old Jim Beam from the 1970s or 1980s, it kind of has that funkiness to it, and it's really syrupy as you drink it. Really enjoy that. So it's an interesting place to visit because, like I said, it's on some of the previous Old Crow, when Old Crow was a standalone distillery. It's on some of that property there, and you can see that it's almost like an archaeological site. So if you're traveling to Kentucky to visit the Bourbon Trail, don't just focus on hitting the big distilleries. Find some of these smaller hidden gems. You're going to get you'll likely get some access to the people that are actually distilling these whiskeys, as opposed to a tour guide that's a sophomore at UK that really doesn't know what they're talking about. and these guys do that. It's a fun whiskey. They have a lot of real tongue-in-cheek attitude with a lot of the brands that they put out. So check out Glens Creek, and really good stuff. So let's talk about the. Before we get, I want to go back to the new music in just a bit.
Sure.
But before we do that, the slide guitar, what prompted you? What inspired you to really perfect that as part of your craft? What was the thing that was driving you to say this is the part that I want to play within my band?
I guess really the blues influence really sparked me to do that, because if you listen to stuff like Muddy Waters and Slim Harpo and Elmore James, Homesick James, Hound Dog Taylor, there's just such a uniqueness to each player and how they go about playing slides. Like I don't care who it is. There's nobody that can get close to the way Muddy Waters played slide guitar. It was amazing. He had this this just screeching high pitched thing. And if anybody else does it, it makes your ears bleed. But when he did it, it was magic. And being a singer, it's kind of like having two voices, because the slide guitar is so close to emulating the human voice. and that's the whole kind
Yeah.
of approach you have to take when you play it. Is you're either trying to mimic a vocal line or
Hmm.
accompany a vocal line with another sort of vocal line. So it's a it was a I think like I said, being a singer, it really gave me a different approach to playing
Hmm.
slide guitar.
Yeah. How did you get into that classic uh, blues, either whether it's Chicago blues or Mississippi Delta blues? What uh, what led you to having an interest in that?
Well, like any other guy my age, I listened to the blues backwards. I started with
Yes.
I started with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then it started tracing the roots of it all. Then you get to Jeff Beck, you get to Eric Clapton, then
Hmm.
you get to the Stones, and you finally get to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf,
Right.
and then you obviously you can keep going back even farther, which with a lot of stuff that I enjoy is farther back as well. But I was always drawn to the more classic sounding blues because it
Hmm.
was just they played, even though they weren't marketed as a band, they played more as a band than a lot of the modern guys did because you had your harp guy, and then you had your guitar guy, and there was these great moments where they would lock in together, even do some lines together or harmonies, and it was just
Hmm.
really magic. And the drums too. I think some of the most fierce parts of blues music are in the drums, and just the way those guys played. They weren't a lot of them probably couldn't even tune a guitar to standard, but they understood their instrument and how to use it because it's what they had, and
Yeah.
that's what they knew how to do. So that's always really amazed me about blues music is what they were able to create with not a lot of knowledge and
Hmm.
not a lot of gear.
Yeah. Yeah. The sound that they're able to get with minimal technology is really impressive because you're listening to it, and you kind of have to think about it in context of, okay, where were they recording this, and on what kind of equipment was it being recorded?
Yeah.
And when you really consider that, it's just amazing the sounds that you get on some of those old records.
Yeah, and then you look at what people were able to do once they heard it, where so many people have used that blues music as a vehicle to create their own thing, and I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Whether you're listening to where you're listening to, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, you're listening to the James Gang, or whatever you may be listening to. They were using that original blues music as kind of as a blueprint for what they were doing. I mean, that's the reason we got so into it. I mean, if you go look at the Allman Brothers Band first record, and you go down and you see whose songs it actually were, you're seeing it's Sonny Boy Williamson, it's T-Bone Walker, and then you go to Led Zeppelin 1, you do the same
Yes.
thing, and and
Yes.
then you're seeing Willie Dixon, you're seeing Otis
Well.
Rush. They're
y-
they turned a whole nother group of people on to a music that was barely alive,
Yeah.
and then
You
made it.
you even go to Led Zeppelin songs that say Plant and Page, and they're lifting from some of those classic blues players with no shame.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm glad they did it because like I said, it brought the blues into a future, and
Yeah.
it's if you look at what happened with the British invasion and blues music, it's really amazing because the Stones were able to bring Howlin' Wolf over and get him on Shindig, and he's on TV, and it reinvigorated his career, and
Yep.
it's even Oda. Was it Otis Spann? I think he ended up moving to Paris because of
Really.
all that, because he was able to get so much more work there versus what he could get here in America. And it's a true American art form, but they
Right.
they they kind of reimagined it and then took it somewhere new.
Yeah.
It's
No.
it's
No.
beautiful.
The Stones and Clapton brought American music back to America.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that Eric Clapton bought Howlin' Wolf's tombstone.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean that's some pretty heavy stuff right there
Yeah.
to influence somebody so much that they do something like that.
Uh, So let's talk a little bit about the songwriting process that you go through. And uh, is it are you pulling a lyric first? Are you have a riff? Because Eyes of the Sun is riff laden. Okay, it's uh, ACDC like riff laden. Okay, so there's a lot of great riffs and guitar parts in there. But what's first for you? Is it the guitar riff? Is it the melody? Is it a lyric? How does your process work?
Usually I'll have a riff in my head, but I don't really have a designation for it because once you get it in the room with the other three guys, then it takes off a total new life of its
Mhm.
own, and you just have to let it grow and do its thing. You can't really come in there with a set idea. At least that's how it works for me. We really write as a band because I'll start playing something, and then Dale will start playing something, and that will completely change my thought process of where I thought the riff would go. So we all just end up improvising off each other and writing these parts, and then we'll kind of stop and say, hey, what do we like about what we're doing here? Is
Mm.
this making sense? And then we'll start to kind of put some song form to it, but not to the point to where we take the magic out of it. So
Yeah,
we just if we get together, we're writing songs. We could probably write two or three songs a night on average. Every time we get together to
yeah.
rehearse. So we've got a lot of material that we need to record.
Yes, you do. What I don't care
Yeah,
if it's just one song. You need to get it out there.
it's happening.
You're talking about the band. I'll use this as a picture. So tell us who each person is and what they play.
Dale Myers on drums, and then
And
I'm in
Dale is to your left in the
right.
photo, right?
Yeah, yeah, left, and then let's see here. I'm in the center there.
Yeah,
Guitar and vocals, and then Alex Wells on guitar, and John Mark Seeley on bass.
yeah. Now, I know that you've gone through some changes in the band lineup. So
Hmm
who's new and who's been with you for a while?
Uh, John and I, me and the bass player John Seeley, are the founders of the band,
Hmm.
and the two new guys are on the left and right of me there.
Yeah,
Dale Myers on drums and Alex Wells on guitar. We had some changes around 2020 during the pandemic.
yeah.
Andrew, our original drummer, wanted to stay home and kind of do the family thing, and then Steve, guitarist, went on to play bass with Blackstone Cherry,
Oh
and
wow.
then in the middle of that, I had thyroid cancer. So I ended up having to get my thyroid removed and take some treatment. And it took me about a year to handle that. And then, we brought the other two guys in and started playing some shows. But soon as I kind of got over the cancer thing, Richard Young from the Headhunters called, and he's like, "Man, why don't you just come out on the road with us until you get this going?" So that's kind of what I'm still doing now when Otis
Yeah,
isn't touring. For example, this weekend I'm going to go out with the Headhunters and hang out with those
great.
guys, and even uh, uh, Greg's wife had some health issues last year, so I ended up taking his spot for a couple of weeks playing guitar. So
Yeah,
that was interesting.
but that had to be fun.
Yeah,
Um,
it was kind of surreal, when you hear that classic Headhunter intro music come on. You're like, oh, I have to play the show tonight.
oh wait, it's
So
me.
yeah, but a really amazing experience, and I love those guys for deciding that I was the first choice to come out and do it.
Yeah,
Obviously a big honor.
yeah. Well, and thank God that you've recovered from your cancer.
Yeah,
That's a blessing, and um, that kind of explains the the gap in music, I guess. That and COVID.
yeah. We were kind of on a hiatus there for a couple of years, but we've quickly got things back on the track and getting ready to play some shows with Jackal and doing a bunch of other fun things.
Yeah. So let's start because you know this is a very and you alluded to it, this is a very fitting song for Otis. There's a break in the road because of the changes within the band and the changes that it sounds like you've had going on personally. Uh, you could have also done "Back in the Saddle Again" by Aerosmith, and that would have been appropriate too, because it's good to have Otis back. And again, this song, "There's a Break in the Road," man, it's a cover, but it's a cover that you guys have really made your own.
Thanks,
And
man.
uh, one of the things that you guys do as a band, and I think it shows in this song as well, is the way guitars kind of intertwined. It's almost Keith Richards, Ron Wood kind of feel to it, that one goes and then the other goes, and you gotta be paying attention to try to keep up with who's doing what when.
Oh yeah, and the guitars should tell their own story, and especially with us being in the blues rock, southern rock genre, it's such a guitar driven music that
Mhm.
the guitar is usually in charge of telling a lot of the story. But man, we've got we couldn't ask for a better rhythm section for the kind of music that we're trying to play. Dale and John together, they're so funky and soulful, and
Mhm.
anybody could play over the top of those two guys and make something
Yeah,
out of it.
it's the Kentucky Groove. Kentucky
That's it,
Groove.
man. That's it.
Now there's a connection that I'm very interested in about this song, and that is the Ty Tabor connection. How did you get hooked up with him?
Well, we were looking for somebody to master the song, and Greg and I from the Kentucky Headhunters were talking about it. I was like, "Man, Greg, we need somebody to master this song." And he's like, "Why don't you just get Ty Tabor from King's X to do it?" I'm like, well, number one, I didn't know that he did mastering, and
Yeah.
I said, I assume you're gonna put me in contact with him. He's like, oh yeah, man, he's a great guy, because he had just mastered some stuff for Greg when they did the Martin Smith McGee record, so
Okay.
that's how Greg kind of got into contact with him. So we sent Ty an email, and it just happened that his schedule was just right for him to do this. So he did a fantastic job on it
Awesome, man.
as well. It sounds
Yeah.
great, and Kevin McKendry as well knocked it
Mhm.
out of the park in the
Yeah.
studio, and we were uh, we were really proud, man. We
Yeah.
only used three microphones on the drums, and we got that big
You're
classic rock
kidding
drum
me.
sound. No, he's a genius at miking, man.
Okay.
That was
Okay. Just so if people don't know, Kevin McKendry played with Delbert McClinton, George Thorogood, right? That's kind
George
of,
Thorogood,
yeah.
Brian Setzer as
Brian
well.
Setzer too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, fantastic piano player in his own right.
He's
Um,
great.
and yeah, this song is really well constructed and well played, and the
Thank you.
way it all lays out. So, were you a King's X fan?
Oh yeah, man. I love King's X, and definitely Alex, the other guitar player in the band, is a big King's X fan as
Yeah,
well. And it's they sound so huge for a three-piece band, and that soulful
eh,
vocal in there as well.
yeah. That the big heavy bass and that very distinctive guitar tone. I mean,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I've got a friend up in Indianapolis who's a guitar player named Tommy Baldwin, and Tommy has played with Doug Pinnick,
Oh
uh,
wow.
and he was actually, I think he was out in L.A. a month or so two ago working with Doug on his new album, uh, and Doug produced Tommy's solo album that came out, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
great, great band, love them. Yeah, I won't start down that rabbit hole because I won't stop. Um, but let's talk about your vocals just a little bit, because it's the guitars are so outstanding in it. It's easy to overlook how that bluesy howl that you have in your vocals, and a really surprising vocal range. in terms of high to low. Did you
Thank you.
have any formal vocal training, or is this just you?
No, it's I've never had any vocal training. I was the guy that started singing because nobody else wanted to sing, so I kind of had to find my own thing that I was really good at singing, and then I started listening to all this blues music, and that's the kind of vocal thing that really moved me. It's like I think I could do this because I'm not a fan of like a real clean perfect vocal. That's not me. That's not what I listen for. So I start hearing all this great blues stuff like Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, the usual suspects we talk about in the blues world.
Yeah.
But then you hear the English guys do their take on it. So you have like Steve Marriott and Robert Plant and man, I could go on all these great singers, and it's especially Steve Marriott. I kind of figured out that he was pulling a lot more from the soul world than he was the blues world. So I started exploring all that music as well, and that's when I really found my voice, is when I got into the soul music, because it's still rough and raspy, but the way they use the melody, and they just tell a story with every song, and that's always been really amazing to me. So just basically my take on soul and blues music.
Yeah, and you can say I think the word phrase you used was you're not. It's not a perfect uh, voice or something of that nature, but you're
Yeah.
you're right on, man. You're hitting every note. It's not off at all,
Oh,
uh,
thanks, man.
and and given the kind of that raspy growl that you have to it, that bluesy growl that you have to it, to be able to be that precise musically with it, I think that says a lot. And
Thanks.
so, yeah, yeah, pay attention to the vocals. don't you
There you
can get
go.
it's easy to get lost when you're listening to Otis. Get lost in the that Kentucky groove and get lost in those guitars. But man, the vocals are so good too, and it just
Thank
it
you.
just all fits. It just fits so well together.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Now, you were kind enough to send me an advance of your next single, uh, "Last Fool in Line," and I think that we've all felt like we've been there. um, this is a really swampy song, man. This is
Oh, thank you.
it's a little different than things you've done before. Uh, how did you come up with this one, and what inspired that?
We've had this song kind of sitting around for a while, but didn't really have a chance to record it until now. So it's uh, it's really cool. It's the first original thing that the second lineup of the band has recorded together. We
Okay.
we recorded it right after we did Break in the Road. We're like, all right, we got this done. Let's move on to the next one. So
Yep.
we take off on it, and it's more soul R&B inspired. Still
Mhm.
very bluesy, but there's a whole soul element to it, and it's just lyrically kind of inspired by, like, it's if you go to a bar, or if you go out to the smoking section of the venue, there's always that one guy that has this unbelievable story, and you're like, that happened to this guy? No way. But the more you talk to him, like, either he's a good liar, or he knows how to tell a great story, or you get really lived an amazing life. So I'm a I love Fred Young puts it good. He's like, there's nothing. He said, there's nothing like a good shady character story. So this is a shady character story in a song.
And again, great uh, double guitar solo in this one with the
Oh, thank
slide
you.
guitar and the I guess what we'd call it fretwork uh,
Yeah,
guitar solo. Um, just that definitely carries that Otis feel to it, but it's different than I think anything that you've done before. So congratulations on that. When do you plan
thank you.
on releasing this one?
That's going to be a single release for this summer. We've got a couple more single releases scheduled.
Mhm.
Hopefully, working our way up to full length release.
Yeah. So is the plan to do release an album or an EP or something later in the year?
We definitely want to release an album. We don't quite have a date on it yet. We got to go
Yeah,
in and record some more stuff and hopefully get a label deal going on.
yeah,
So yeah, we're just kind of in the production phase of the whole thing. So we're gonna release some singles for a while we work on the buy some time to work on the album.
yeah. So what else can we expect from Otis in the near future?
Uh, New music. We got a This next release will have a lyric video for the single, and of course a lot of touring. We're getting to branch out and do some more touring this year, which is what we really love to do.
Great.
And it's if you're in this business, tickets and T-shirts is what pays the bills.
Yep.
So we like to get out there and play. So um, for local folks, we're going to be with the legendary Southern hog rock band Jackal at the
Hmm.
Plaza in Glasgow, Kentucky on May the 31st. And we're also going to be doing the Duncan Hines Festival in June. That's a really big festival, actually.
Hmm.
Sam Bush is on that one, so we're getting to support Sam Bush on the show. And our next show, we're going down to the Allman Brothers Band Museum and doing an evening with Otis there. That's going to be a lot of fun. And as you got posted there, July
Yep.
27th, we'll also be at Mojo's Boneyard
Yeah.
in Evansville, Indiana. So
Great
lots of
venue.
fun
Great venue.
regional
Yeah.
Otis dates coming up. It'll be our first time there, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Evansville's is a great blues rock town.
Oh yeah,
Um, the Cold Stairs. You know the Cold Stairs?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man, we played gigs with those guys in a place called the Moscows when nobody knew who either one of us was. But we had a we had a great time listening to each other and hanging out though. Fun
Well,
stuff.
uh, I I definitely have plans to see you at in Bowling Green, and we'll try to make my way to Evansville in July to see you as well. I'm looking forward to that. I'm excited for what you guys are doing. It's great to have Otis back, and on this little graphic, you can go to theotisband.com, and what all can people find there?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. Tour dates. We got some merch on there. You can find all our other social media. All the streaming sites are there. Everything you need to know about Otis is pretty much there on the website.
Yeah, I found the merch, so I'm ordering an Otis hat. I saw that on there, so I got to get a hat.
We
Uh,
appreciate it, man.
yep. And on Instagram, where can folks find you on social media?
Instagram at Otis Band Official, and we're pretty easy to find on Facebook.
Yeah,
Otis Heavy Blues. You can find us there.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, this has been a ton of fun, Boone. I hope you've enjoyed it at least
I
half as
sure
much as
have.
I have, and just really excited for what you guys are doing, and thankful for your recovery, and that we've got some great music from you and Otis now and coming up this year. It's exciting times, brother.
Absolutely, man. I agree, and I really appreciate you for having me on, man. It's been a great time.
Yeah, and I'll look forward to meeting you in person soon, and just checking out Otis live. Um, but before we sign off here, I do want to tell everybody you can find our show again on YouTube, or if you want to just listen, we're on your favorite podcast platform. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we can post what we're drinking that night and what we're listening to while we're drinking it. And there's been some Otis posted on Facebook and Instagram lately, and
All right.
I'm pretty sure there'll be some more too. Also, be sure to check out Dueling Grounds. Fantastic bourbon. This is their bottled in bond. There's also a cast strength version of this, which is really, really good. And Glens Creek, if you're in Kentucky and you're going to make the Bourbon Trail, you got to go by Glens Creek. Um, this is sold there, and they have just a wide variety of fantastic stuff that just flies under the radar. One, because they don't have a $100 million marketing budget, but it's also a smaller place, and don't overlook it just because it's not big time. But again, Boone, man, I can't thank you enough for being on here. Congratulations on the new single and everything that's coming
Thanks.
up. And man, if you're listening to this right now, you got to check out Otis. You can listen to him Spotify, Apple Music, I guess, Amazon, all the good stuff.
We're everywhere.
Yep.
You'll find us.
Yep. All right. Well, check them out. And on behalf of Boone and myself, until next time, cheers, love, and free bird. Good night.